Welcome everybody to Break Up the Daily Grind. I am your host, Ben, just in case you didn't know. And my co-host, Corey, is sitting across the table.
Yes.
Yes, you
yes,
are.
I am.
Yes. Because it just wouldn't be right if you didn't.
Oh, well, glad someone appreciates my presence.
I appreciate your presence like you appreciate my dad jokes.
Hey.
So how things for you, Corey?
Pretty good. Pretty
Yeah?
good. Yep. I got nothing new.
Nothing new.
No, nothing. Nothing. Just boring, lame week.
Yeah?
Nothing notable.
Yeah?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I feel that part. I feel that for you. I guess before we get too involved in all the good shenanigan shit that we do here on a weekly basis, I guess we will let everybody know that this episode of Break Up the Daily Grind is brought to you by
Masters of Nine. Masters of Nine is a fantasy tabletop role-playing group that has fun playing poorly and recorded for your entertainment. They are a series of bad rolls.
Yes. Yes, we are. Well, you know what? I do have, for this next little section, I have a dedication.
Really?
Yes. I'm dedicating these dad jokes to one of my friend's son.
Aw.
Yep, his name was Scott. He just recently passed away. He just lost his life to cancer with a little nasty bout of cancer. Matter of fact, that's where I was at before we went to this. So
Yeah.
I had to go to the viewing. And those are always rough. I don't care who you are. There is no parent in this world should ever have to bury their child.
No, not before themselves.
No, that's just not the way it was designed to be. Scott was a man that tried and wanted to give everything to not only his kids, but also their mother, which the two of them were supposed to be married in June. So that's just another little bad spot in the ding of that whole thing. But I will let everybody know that if you happen to know Scott or his family, or if you would just like to help out, we did put a link to his GoFundMe page.
Nice.
To help support the family and all the nasty little things that are coming down the pipe. Information is on our Facebook page, just so everybody knows. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and go on with these dedication dad jokes. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Until you read them, and then I'll
Be not so ready no more.
regret everything.
Yeah, these are probably gonna be. These ain't gonna be the good ones.
I see.
Yeah, we're probably gonna falter on these a little bit, but you know what? You can't have all the good ones all the time, because nobody's sending us their favorite dad jokes.
Womp
Wah, wah. Yep. So with that little thing of, you guys ain't doing your job here, here's a joke just for everybody that hasn't sent their dad joke in. Ready?
Ready.
What did one toilet say to the other?
I don't know what.
Are you okay? You look a little flush.
All right. Oh, I should have guessed that one correctly.
Oh, and they're just gonna go downhill from here.
Oh no.
Yep. What do bears call campers in sleeping bags?
A snack? I don't know.
Soft tacos. You're close. What does garlic do before it showers?
I don't know what.
It takes off its clothes.
Okay, that one's pretty good.
When it rains cats and dogs, you have to be careful.
Why?
Because you don't want to step in a poodle.
Okay, you got my expectations for these ones so low that they actually came across as good.
Well, see, that's the whole thing. That's what I got to do, you know?
That is impressive.
I push that bar all the way to the bottom so I can still have my confidence and my what's the word I'm looking for? My confidence and my ability to make you laugh. So, with that, obviously we put a smile on Corey's face. I got one on mine as well. But we hope we put a smile on everyone else's face. And now with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get on with today's topic, which just so happens we are going to break it up a little bit, right?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, what are we going to do today?
Well, I hope you're ready to wince and cringe and whatever that
look was supposed to be.
Yeah, whatever I just did. Disgust or
Yeah,
don't want to look. I don't know. You can probably imagine the face just from those noises. I wanted to talk about famous medieval torture methods.
Oh, somebody's on a history kick. I like it though. I like it.
I thought it'd be interesting to talk about and to be thankful that we don't live in times anymore that do those types of things.
Oh, they do. They just don't get caught doing it no more.
No, you're not going to be on display as public entertainment when they do it.
Oh, yeah, they are. It's called the internet.
Unless you go to the dark web. It's a lot more uncommon nowadays. Let's just say that.
It's not mainstream? Is
It's
that
not
what you're
mainstream.
looking for?
That's
Okay.
the word. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, now that you've whet
And-
my appetite and all the disgust, I'm kind of curious here.
I'll be honest. These medieval methods are probably way more...
efficient?
no, they're probably way more creative than anything they could do online.
Are you saying that the internet has destroyed our creativity?
Probably. I mean, come on. This is like the 4th beheading this week. Give me something fresh.
Something fresh. So, are we going to set up a rating scale for these? Is that what you want to do?
We can. I think you should be the one to rate them.
All right, I'll do my best.
Do your best.
I'll do my
We
best.
we can maybe compare them and rate them. Which one's the worst out of... I got a list of 10 right here.
Okay, so these are going to be okay. We'll try to. Well, I'll try to do my best here.
So we'll see what happens.
All right, let's go.
All right. So the first one that I want to look at is the breaking wheel.
Breaking wheel.
Yeah.
Sounds like something you'd get on driving on Michigan roads.
So the breaking wheel was a public execution method, and a lot of the times it was used in the Holy Roman Empire, which is mostly depending on what time frame you're talking about it, that would consist of like modern day Germany and Italy and Austria
Yeah.
and Switzerland, places like that.
Well, CCO Switzerland wasn't so neutral all the time, were they?
So it actually ended up getting abolished in 1813.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's not too far
that's
back.
not too long ago. Could you imagine being the last person to get this torture method before it was abolished?
They were
But-
like, why could you just wait one more month? They
One
were
more
gonna,
month.
They were going to abolish that. Why do I got to be the last one?
Another thing that's interesting to note about this torture method compared to a lot of other ones
Yeah.
is the victims of the person being tortured were given the opportunity to dish out some of the punishment themselves.
Say that one more time.
So, say you committed a crime.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. The convicted people of this specific method of torture were murderers, rapists, traitors, and robbers.
Okay.
So,
So
say
you're talking about modern day businessmen.
so. Think about if you raped a woman and stuff, and you were
Okay.
convicted of this.
Okay.
She would be allowed to do
Interact with your torture.
Yeah, she would be allowed to swing the hammer or whatever method.
I don't see nothing wrong with that.
No, but it's interesting because not a lot of methods have an executioner, which this
Right.
one does too. And Usually it's only the executioner, so it's interesting that they allow the victim of the crime to
Right.
participate in torture.
Right.
But I'll get into it.
Okay.
The breaking wheel, also known as the execution wheel or the wheel of Catherine, was a torture method used for public execution primarily in Europe throughout the Middle Ages up to the 19th century by breaking the bones of criminals or bludgeoning them to death. This practice was abolished in Bavaria in 1813 and in the Electorate of Hesse in 1836. The last known execution by the wheel took place in Prussia in 1841 in the Holy Roman.
That's even closer.
Yeah, so we're almost not even 200 years
We're going
ago.
to stop this method, but we're going to kind of let it linger on for another 30 years.
In the Holy Roman Empire, it was a mere punishment for highwaymen and street thieves and was set out in the... Nope, don't know what that is. Sachsenspiegel for murder and arson that resulted in fatalities. And so now what I'm going to read is what they actually did
Okay.
for the punishment. So, as I said, those convicted as murderers, rapists, traitors, or robbers were to be executed by the wheel, sometimes termed to be the wheeled or broken on the wheel, would be taken to a public stage, scaffold site, and tied to the floor. The execution wheel was typically a large wooden spoked wheel, and the same as was used on. It would be the same type of wheel that you'd see on transport carts and carriages, often with an iron rim, sometimes purposefully modified with a rectangular iron thrust attached and extending a blade-like form from part of the rim. The primary goal of the first act, so there's multiple acts,
Oh, yay.
was the agonizing mutilation of the body, not death. Therefore, the most common form would start with breaking the leg bones to this end.
Oh, those hurt.
The executioner dropped the execution wheel on the shin bones. So you get like
So
one of those...
They tied you to the floor and not the wheel?
No, they tied you to the floor, and they
Okay.
would take a wheel
And drop it on
and
you.
drop it on parts
Okay.
of you.
Talk about feeling run down.
And then would work. They would drop the wheel on the shin bones of the convicted person, and then work their way up to the arms. Here, rhythm and number of beatings were prescribed in each case. Sometimes also the number of spokes on the wheel to increase the effect of the damage. Often, sharp-edged timbers were placed under the convict's joints. Later, there were devices in which the convicted person could be harnessed, although not complacent. The executioner could be instructed to execute the convicted person at the end of the first act by aiming for the neck or the heart. In a coup de grace, even less often, this occurred immediately from the start, from the head down. In the second act, the body was braided into another wooden spoked wheel. So now they're taking the body and
Weaving it through the
weaving it
spokes.
through the spokes, which was possible because the limbs were broken.
Oh.
Yeah. And so the person would be tied to the wheel. Yeah. The wheel was then erected on a mast or a pole, similar to a crucifixion. After this, the executioner was permitted to decapitate the convicted, if need be. Alternatively, fire was kindled under the wheel, or the wheeled convict was simply thrown into a fire. Occasionally, a small gallows was set up on the wheel, for example, if they were guilty verdict for theft in addition to murder. Since the body remained on the wheel after execution, they would be left to scavenging animals, birds, and decay. This form of punishment, like the ancient crucifixion, had a sacred function beyond death. According to the belief at the time, this would hinder transition from death to resurrection. If the convict fell from the wheel still alive, or the executioner failed in some other way, such as the wheel itself breaking, or falling from its placement, it was interpreted as God's intervention. There exists many images of saved victims of the wheel, and there is literature on how best to treat such sustained injuries. The survival time...
I don't think a surgeon or a doctor is going to help at that
I don't
time.
think I want to be alive
After
having my broken limbs weaved through. You're just a cripple at that point.
Yeah. I mean,
There's no, like, what are you going to do?
well, I'm trying to figure out, okay, I can see the limbs because they're pretty much going to be jello. They're pretty much jello anyway. But how do you get the torso to weave in and out?
Painfully.
I mean, you would have to break the rib cage.
Oh, yeah, and I'm certain they did that, too.
Oh my gosh.
The survival time after being wheeled or broken could be extensive. Accounts exist of a 14th century murderer who remained conscious for 3 days after undergoing the breaking
What?
wheel. In 1348, during the time of the Black Death, a Jewish man named Bonadias underwent the punishment. The authorities stated he remained conscious for 4 days and nights afterwards. In 1581, the German serial killer Chrisman, that is quite the name, Ginipertinga.
Bless you.
Chrisman Ginipertinga remained conscious for 9 days on the breaking wheel before expiring, having been deliberately kept alive with strong drink. Alternatively...
I want a strong drink before I start.
Oh my gosh. Alternatively, the condemned were spread-eagled and broken on on a psaltery, a cross consisting of 2 wooden beams nailed in an X shape, after which the victim's mangled body might be displayed on the wheel. So that's the breaking wheel.
That's terrible. And that's number one?
That's number 1.
Now, do they get worse from here?
I don't think there's any sort of like order of like worst.
Okay.
I'm just going through. So
That I don't know. I would have to say that's pretty rough. I would almost rank that rated up there to the top.
we're starting that at number 1.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. So the next one that a lot of people are probably familiar with is the rack.
Oh yeah.
Which is like, it kind of looks like a ladder at like an angle.
Yeah.
And then they tie you to it.
Yep.
And then they can
Yep.
stretch you out,
Stretch.
essentially.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the rack is a torture device consisting of rectangular, usually wooden frames slightly raised from the ground with a roller at one or both ends. The victim's ankles are fastened to one roller and the wrists are chained to the other. So this method was used for more so interrogation.
Yeah, that's how you get taller.
Yeah. Well, why do you think I'm so tall?
Yeah.
You thought it was genetics? Nope.
I did not put you on the rack as a kid. I can promise you that.
As the interrogation progressed, a handle and ratchet mechanism attached to the top roller are used to very gradually retract the chains, slowly increasing the strain on the prisoner's shoulders, hips, knees, and elbows, and causing excruciating pain by means of pulleys and levers. This roller could be rotated on its own axis, thus straining the ropes until the sufferer's joints were dislocated and eventually separated. Additionally, if muscle fibers are stretched excessively, they lose their ability to contract, rendering them ineffective. Yeah.
Yeah, contract.
Ugh. Not fun.
No. Although I don't know, I don't think that one would be as bad as the first one. The first one's one's brutal, man.
Yeah.
Brutal.
It's unclear exactly which civilization the rack originated from. The earliest examples are from Greece. The Greeks may have first used the rack as a means of torturing slaves and non-citizens, and later in special cases, as in 356 BC, when it was applied to gain a confession from Herostratus, an arsonist who was later executed for burning down the Temple of Artemis and one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Alexander the Great had the pages who conspired to assassinate him, along with their mentor, his court historian Calathenus, tortured on the rack in 328 BC. So the rack was used on early Christians such as Saint Vincent and mentioned by Church Father Tertullian and Saint Jerome. Its first appearance in England is said to have been due to John Holland, 2nd Duke of Exeter, the Constable of the Tower in 1447, and it was thus popularly known as the the Duke of Exeter's daughter. The Protestant martyr Anne Askew, daughter of Sir William Askew, Knight of Lincolnshire, was tortured on the rack before her execution in 1546 when she was at the age of 25. She was so damaged by the torture on the rack that she had to be carried on a chair to her burning at the stake.
Oh, gosh.
The accusations against her were from the bishop's chancellor, who claimed that women were not allowed to speak the scriptures, and the bishop of Winchester, because she would not profess that the sacraments were the literal flesh, blood, and bone of Christ. This despite the fact that the English Reformation had already begun a decade earlier. Jeez. So essentially, that's what it does.
Well, we've seen those on
Yeah.
the rack. We've seen the rack on movies before.
Oh yeah, it's a very popular
Yeah.
popular one. That's one I
And
kind of.
Then the Cowboys took a similar one of that, and they said, "Well, we don't have a rack, so we're going to tie you to horses."
Yeah, so that was something that the Mongols did. Is they would tie their victim one limb for each horse,
Right.
and then they'd have the horses run in opposite directions of each
Yeah.
other and just pull you apart.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Well, it's a little faster than the rack.
not as still not pleasant.
No, it's still painful. Yeah.
So the next
No,
one.
that's-
The next one is another pretty well-known one, the Iron Maiden.
I think I've heard of that one before.
So, the Iron Maiden is a torture device consisting of a solid iron cabinet with a hinged front and a spike-covered interior.
Yep.
So, you've probably seen those on movies, too.
Yep. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Harry Houdini had one or something like that.
I think you're right.
Maybe he had a couple coffins, but I don't know if they had any spikes in them. But I've seen the ones with spikes. You've seen them on. I mean, shoot, we've seen it on Scooby Doo.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I feel like that was one of the most well-used ones, or most popularly used ones for media when it comes to
Right.
torture devices.
I don't know. I think I've seen the rack more than I have the Iron Maiden.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen this one quite a bit on media, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You just like throw the people in there and then you
Slam the lid.
you slam it shut. But I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to kill them. The spikes are supposed to be just up against you,
Right.
and you're forced to stand there for like days or weeks or months until
Right.
you eventually like collapse or give in from exhaustion and just like impale yourself on them.
Or you bleed out.
Yeah.
From slight cuts.
So, the Iron Maiden is a torture device consisting of a solid iron cabinet with a hinged front and a spike-covered interior, sufficiently tall to enclose a human being. While often popular throughout the medieval period, the first stories citing the Iron Maiden were composed in the 19th century. The uses of Iron Maidens is considered to be a myth. The use of Iron Maidens is considered to be a myth. Evidence of their actual use has never been found. They have become a popular image in media involving the medieval ages and involving torture chambers. Interesting.
Nice. All stab, but no bleed.
So, despite its reputation as a medieval instrument of torture, there is no evidence of the existence of Iron Maidens before the 19th century. There are, however, ancient reports of the Spartan tyrant Nabis using a similar device around 200 BC for extortion and murder. the Abbasid vizier Ibn al-Ziyad is said to have created a wooden oven-like chest that had iron spikes for torture, which would ironically be used during his own imprisonment and execution in 1847.
You said 1847?
Yeah. Or, sorry, 847. 847.
Okay.
Wolfgang Sicklid, a professor of criminal law history, and philosophy of law at the Belfield University, had argued that Iron Maidens were pieced together from artifacts found in museums to create spectacular objects intended for commercial exhibition. Several 19th century Iron Maidens are on display in museums around the world, including Museum of Us, the Minji University Museum, and several torture museums in Europe. The possible inspiration for it, Iron Maidens may have been constructed as a misinterpretation of a medieval Scheckenmantel, which was made of wood and metal but without spikes. Inspiration for the Iron Maidens may also have come from the Carthaginian execution of Marcus Attilius Regulus, as recorded in Tertullian's To the Martyrs, Chapter 4, in which the Carthaginians shut him in a tight wooden box where he was forced to stand, spiked with the sharpest nails on all sides so that he could not lean in any direction without being pierced. Which I feel like that's the most common interpretation that people have of it. Or from Polybius, account of Nabis of Sparta's deadly statue of his wife, the Iron Apagia, which is the earliest form of the device. So that's kind of the history of the Iron Maiden. So it's not even really, it's like speculated that it wasn't even like real.
That one's not gonna fall very high on my list. I don't think that one's. I mean, the logic is there, the opportunity for pain and death is there, but it just doesn't have that pizzazz. I mean,
no, it seems kind of It's kind of where you throw away
mediocre.
Your throwaway prisoners. You're like, hey, you're not important enough for me. You can go in the Iron Maiden.
You're not worth my time. I'm just gonna make you stand in the corner.
Oh man, we talked about this one actually, the Brazen Bull. Yeah. So that one essentially is a metal bowl that was heated from below, and the victim was just locked inside. They got thrust inside and roasted to death. And so because of how the piping and the tubes were designed, when they screamed from agony from like being cooked alive, it came out of the bowl like an actual bull or like a bellowing animal, you know, which is kind of cool. That's pretty much the extent of that one.
That one's gonna load. That one, it doesn't have much showmanship.
No. Not enough showmanship.
I mean, you throw a little teriyaki sauce in there, but where's like the other two? Where's the pizzazz? Where's the?
You're saying you want public. You want a display.
But with the other two, everyone has the visual account of what's actually happening. The other two, the Iron Maiden and the Brazen Bull, you just have to listen. You don't
get to see.
You don't get that visual effect of, oh my God, I'm going to chuck my French fries. This is gross.
This one is probably not as bad as the other ones, but I still think it's going to make you...
cringe?
Yeah.
All right, let's see if this cringeworthy.
Thumb screws.
Ow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm cringing. We can go on to the next one.
The thumb screw is a torture instrument which was first used in early modern Europe. Wow, you got a lot of torture Europe. That makes sense, though. It's a simple vise, sometimes with protruding studs on the interior surface. Victims' thumbs, fingers, or toes were placed in the vise and slowly crushed. The crushing bars sometimes lined up with sharp metal points to puncture the nails. While the most common design operated upon a single thumb or big toe, variants could accommodate both big toes, all 5 fingers of one hand, or all 10 toes. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Okay, there's some cringe right
Oh,
there.
that's
I mean, I about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago I smashed my thumb with a block of wood.
yeah.
I can't imagine if it had sharp pointy metal points on it. Yee.
Could you imagine? Because, like, when you smash your finger and stuff, usually whatever smashed it gets lifted up immediately.
Yep.
And
And then
stuff.
starts throbbing.
Yeah, it starts throbbing. And then that's that, you know?
Well, yeah,
They just keep going, and they leave it there.
Yeah, mine followed with a few cuss words. I can promise you that. But
Oh, I'm sure these followed with many cuss words as well, too. Oh, the thumb screw. So this is other terminology for it. It's also called the pillywinks.
the what?
The pillywink.
The pillywink. Now, see that name doesn't do it no justice.
Oh my gosh, no, it doesn't.
It's like, oh, it's a pillywink. I mean, it's like, okay, whatever. Now, thumb screws. Now that has a little more bite to it.
Yeah. Oh. So these are some of the people that it was they were tortured on, or they had the thumb screws used on them. In 1612, painter Orazio accused his colleague Tassi of raping his daughter, the painter Artemisia. During the 5-month-long trial, Artemisia was cross-examined under thumbscrew torture. 5 months?
Jeez.
As late as the mid-18th century, an ex-slave in his autobiography, The Interesting Narrative of the Life of Oluda, documented the use of thumbscrews to torture slaves. During the period, the mid-18th century, Thomas Clarkson carried thumbscrews with him to further his cause for the abolishment of the slave trade and later emancipation of the slaves in the British Empire. He hoped to and did inspire empathy with the display of this and other torture devices used on slaves. They were used on slave ships as witnesses described by him as such.
See, it would have been much more efficient if he just had dragons. If you want to get rid of the slave trade, you just get dragons. It's much easier than thumb screws.
True.
And way cooler.
There's a lot more fun stuff to watch. Burning people alive with dragons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now that I might have to sit around for.
So that's thumb screws.
Okay.
So here's another one that's probably pretty popular. The Pilroy and stocks. And so...
The stocks. Everybody's seen the stocks. Yeah.
The stocks.
Shoot, they got those at Cedar Point.
So with this torture method, the victim's hands, feet, or head were locked in a wooden frame for days, exposed to weather and public abuse.
Yeah.
And so if I think with that, people could like throw things at you and do things to you. And so I guess just hope you weren't in a in a really cold region.
Or better yet, in a place that served a lot of beans.
Yes, exactly.
The worst torture of the stocks is having the people walk by and want to take your photograph.
Yeah, so essentially that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you were just left there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not as bad as some of these.
But you had to stand. I mean, most of those stocks you had to stand.
You did, yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
you weren't sitting.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
you had to stand. I mean, that's torture. I mean, after a while, I'm like, I want to sit down. But if you sit down, it would choke you.
a lot of times too with those is you wouldn't be standing straight. You'd have your back would be arched too.
Yeah.
And so you'd be left like that. You know, think about the worst night of sleep you've ever had.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm just thinking
essentially-
of that block of wood right on my throat.
Ugh. Yeah. Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah. That one kind of went along with other torture methods too.
Right.
Like a lot of people who were put in there would be branded, you know, or they would be whipped.
Yeah.
Flagellation, and corporal punishment too for soldiers who disobeyed orders
Right.
and stuff. Obviously, it wasn't severe. They wouldn't be there for weeks or months. and stuff most of the time.
No,
But it'd
usually
be like a few days.
a good
for,
whipping, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much it for those. Those ones aren't. There's a lot you can do with those.
Yeah.
They were actually used in the U.S. for a bit.
Stocks.
Yeah.
They use them in forts all the time.
Yep.
Yep.
Delaware was the last state to abolish.
The stocks.
Yeah, in 1972.
1972.
Yeah.
Wow, that was just a couple years before I was born.
I'm sure it's one of those things where they didn't actually use it.
Yeah.
It's just like that's
Like-
how long
Like
it.
death
They're like,
by
what?
firing squad
Yeah,
or something like
like,
that.
Why? Wait, why do we still have this? Why is this legal still? You
Why
know,
is it still on the book? This is just
where
no.
it probably wasn't used for like at least a good 100 years or something like
Right.
that before. That's still crazy though.
right.
That it wasn't abolished then. That's funny.
So right now, that one's probably going to sit at number 1.
Really?
Yeah, the stocks.
Compared to the breaking wheel?
Yeah, no, that one still rates up at the top of that list.
Yeah.
That's rough.
That one is rough.
Yep.
So, oh my gosh. I don't even want to read this one.
Oh, so. Oh boy.
The Judas cradle. Pain and humiliation was what it was used for. The victim would be lowered onto a pyramid-shaped seat inserted into the anus or vagina. Movement or added weight increased the agony of this torture device. Oh my gosh.
Man. Talk about spread wide. That's terrible.
Oh, that is gross. Oh my gosh.
Please tell me you did not just see a picture of it.
No, I did.
Oh, good.
I didn't.
Like a mental image.
It derives its name from the biblical figure of Judas who betrayed Jesus Christ. It was believed that the torture device was named after Judas as a means of punishing those who were deemed to have betrayed their fellow man. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So that's all they really have on it, though. It was just for humiliation, and you were just left there. Ugh.
Yeah, so that one's right around the stocks, that-
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little pain there, but
Ugh. Yeah, it just does not sound fun.
no, I would have to say the stocks would still be at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yep, that'd be number 1. Or no, let's change the ranking key. Number 10 would be 10 on the list,
Yeah.
which would be lower.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think the stocks would still be number 10, and then we can put the what's that one called? The
Judas cradle.
The Judas cradle. That could be number 9, and then the other ones are like top 3, I think. Well, the brazen bull would have to fall in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, and then Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
I'd put
Iron
that
Maiden.
down probably
Yeah.
on the bottom too.
Well, let's keep that one at number 8,
Yeah.
and the brazen bull would be number 5.
Okay.
Yep, and then the broken wheel, that's still number 1.
Gosh, that one's awful.
That one's horrible. Well, there was
Um,
another one there too, wasn't there?
the rack.
The rack, yeah.
The rack.
Yeah, we'll put that one at number 2 for the time being.
Oh man, this one sucks.
Oh boy.
It's called the Pear of Anguish,
The Pear of Anguish.
also known as the choke pear or the mouth pear, is a device of disputed use invented in the early modern period. The mechanism consisted of a pear-shaped metal body divided into spoon-like segments that can be separated. So essentially, what it is it's a pear-shaped device, and then it's got a lever, and you pull the lever down, and it opens like
Right,
that.
like a clamshell.
Yeah, like a clamshell essentially, but in 4 different like
Oh,
pieces.
4 different pieces.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not going to be good.
Oh gosh. Divided into spoon-like segments that can be spread apart with a spring or by turning a key. Its proposed function as a torture device is to be variously inserted into the mouth and other parts of the body and then expanded to gag or mutilate the victim. Its historical use as a torture device is controversial. Some scholars have disputed historical accounts of the pair as being suspiciously implausible. While there exist some examples from the early modern period, some of them open with a spring and a removable key, and the removable key is there not to open the mechanism, but rather to close it. At least one of the older devices is held closed with a cap at the end, suggesting it could have been opened after inserting it into an orifice without actively holding it shut. There is no contemporary evidence of such a torture device existing in the medieval era, and ultimately, the utility of any genuine pairs of anguish remaining unknown. It is possible that it could have been used for to extract juices from fruit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was for.
Essentially, it's what people assumed it was used for in a method like torture method is people would it was typically used for blasphemy and heresy or deviancy,
Right. Yeah.
if that's what you were convicted of, and it's a metal. It was inserted in your mouth, anus, or vagina, and then expanded and opened, and it would stretch those orifices to mutilate you.
Okay, I was having a mental picture of it being the other way, but no, that's still pretty. Ouch.
Yeah, that one. Ugh.
What's that one called?
Pair of anguish.
The Pair of Anguish.
Yes. So, number 9. Probably one of the most common forms of torture, which I wouldn't even really consider torture, to be honest, is beheading. I'd say that's more form of execution. I'm going to go with a specific form of beheading.
Okay.
The guillotine.
The guillotine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's execution. I don't know if that's really. Of course, I guess laying there would be. That would be torture.
Mental torture.
Yeah. Well, and the 5 minute, the 3 or 4 minutes that your brain continues to work without having a body.
Yeah. A guillotine is an apparatus designed for effectively carrying out executions by beheading. The device consists of a tall, upright frame with a weighted and angled blade suspended at the top. The condemned person is secured with a pillory at the bottom of the frame, holding the position of the neck directly below the blade. The blade is then released, swiftly and forcefully decapitating the victim with a single clean pass. The head falls into a basket or other receptacles below. It wasn't always a clean pass.
No.
There would be times where it would come down and it wouldn't go through all the way, and the victim would still be alive, and they'd have to do it again. Yeah. Oh.
That's horrible.
The guillotine is best known for its use in France, particularly during the French Revolution, where the revolution's supporters celebrated it as the People's Avenger, and the revolution's opponents vilified it as a preeminent symbol of the violence of the Reign of Terror. While the name guillotine dates from this period, similar devices had been in use elsewhere in Europe over several centuries. Use of an oblique blade and the pillory-like restraint device set this type of guillotine apart from others. Display of severed heads had long been one of the most common ways European sovereigns exhibited their power of their subjects. So yeah, they would leave decapitated heads of other victims previously in the same basket.
Oh, so while you're standing there, you're staring at somebody else's head.
Yeah, all the other decapitated heads.
Oh, that had to smell.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that was the least of their worries.
Yeah. At that point, I wouldn't be too worried about the smell.
Yeah.
I'm like, just make sure it goes straight through. I do not want to have to go through this twice.
Yep.
Ugh.
The design of the guillotine was intended to make capital punishment more reliable and less painful in accordance with the new Enlightenment ideas of human rights. Prior to use of the guillotine, France had inflicted manual beheadings and a variety of methods of execution, which many of which were more gruesome and required a high level of precision and skill to carry out.
Yeah, you got to make sure you get the axe right between.
Oh my goodness!
The C3 and the C4 vertebrae. You can't get You get outside of that, it's not good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no.
Although I think with if you were gonna, I think there'd be more torture with having an actual executioner swing the axe. Especially if you get a guy up there and he thinks he's funny, he's gonna swing a few times and miss on purpose.
Yeah, oh my god.
Foot right beside your head, like, oh jeez.
So, the last execution by guillotine occurred in September 1981.
What?
Yeah. Occurred in 1977. In September 1981, France outlawed capital punishment altogether, thus abandoning the guillotine forever.
1977.
Yeah. September 10th, 1977.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
It's crazy to think that the only reason the guillotine isn't still being used is because France outlawed capital punishment. That's the only reason. They didn't ban the guillotine, they just banned capital punishment
altogether.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The last, but certainly not the most pleasant, is the heretic's fork.
Heretic's fork.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it was used to prevent sleep or movement.
Heretic's fork.
Yeah. So, it's essentially it's like a little device with no more than like 6 to 8 inches, maybe a foot.
Okay.
And at each end is kind of similar to how like a wrench is crescent shaped.
Okay. Yep.
The fork is also crescent shaped, but it's a lot sharper.
Okay.
And so it would be like that on both ends.
Okay.
Essentially. And so what the fork was used for,
a fork?
a lot of times too, it was kept rusty,
Right.
and not in good condition.
Well, yeah, because that just
On
adds to
purpose.
the punishment.
Yeah, it does. Oh my gosh.
We're gonna get a little tetanus here.
Tetanus, then lockjaw.
Oh.
I'm good. So,
That brazen bull starting to look a little better.
yeah, maybe a little bit. So, a metal rod with prongs on both ends, placed between the chin and chest, or neck and jaw. So they would put
Okay.
it like
right here.
yeah, like this. And so what it would do is it would make sleeping or head movement impossible. So so that's another thing they could probably use with like the stockade and stuff too, is imagine putting you in that and then they keep you like
Yeah,
here.
the little thing just about so your throat would sit on it.
Yeah, your throat would sit on it, or you have to use all your energy to keep your head up, because if you lower your head, then it'll like go through. It'll impale you essentially. Oh gosh,
That's rough.
These methods were often more about power and control than truth or justice, and they were typically used in Europe. It was primarily used during the Spanish Inquisition to extract confessions or punish those accused of heresy and witchcraft. Which tracks.
How long would they have to stay with that? Probably till they got the confession they wanted. That's the funny thing about torture, is that they use it to get confessions, but under that kind of stress, the body just gives information, even if it's not right.
I don't even think it was about, because
Yeah, back then they didn't care whether you're right or wrong.
The Spanish Inquisition, they didn't care. They just wanted answers. If you gave them the answers, they were going to kill you anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Their mercy was killing you instead of keeping you strapped to that. You know,
Right.
So you give them the answers, and they'll give you a clean death, burned at the stake.
Oh, that's not clean.
Oh, I know. That was sarcasm. They'll give you a clean death, burned at the stake, or
So you tell us what you want. We're gonna give you some A1 steak sauce.
it was between that. I mean, would you? Because essentially, you would probably be just left like that anyways, even if you didn't give them what they wanted,
Right.
And you didn't tell them what they wanted, and you would just be like that until you like died.
Till you decide to stab yourself in the
Yep,
neck and
exactly.
call
So
call it done.
yeah. So at that point, I mean, if it was between, you're pretty much deciding between I want to be burned alive, or do I want to like just stab myself and and just let it be over at that point.
Right.
And so, honestly, I'd probably take the stabbing myself over being burned alive.
Yeah, I think. No, I don't. Homie don't. Homie don't do by death by fire.
No.
No.
So that's all of them.
Okay.
Actually, that's all the ones that I had.
All right. So I wrote down a list 1 through 10.
Okay.
Right. I kind of put them in order where I thought they would, where I thought they fell.
10
So,
being the
10 being the least. 1 being no, not gonna happen. I started number 10 with the stocks.
okay.
Thought that was pretty, because although that's torturous, it's probably not going to kill you,
Yeah.
right? Yep.
I think it depends on the circumstances.
Right.
Where it's like if they're leaving you out in the freezing cold and
Or the blazing heat.
Yeah, the blazing heat and stuff. And it depends on what they're letting people do to you. They're letting people literally come up there and just stab you.
Right.
But if you're just being like corporal punishment, like
Right.
whipped and stuff, or
Yeah.
you're just left there for like a week or
Humiliation
something, yeah, for like that's your punishment, and
Yep.
yeah, you're probably right. They're
Yep.
probably not too dangerous compared to all the other ones.
Then I put number 9 was the Iron Maiden.
Okay.
So we put the Iron Maiden at number 9, and then I put the Judas Cradle at number 8.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that was painful, but not terribly.
I don't think that was gonna kill you. It's just
No,
one of
but
those
it
things.
would
It
It
hurt
would definitely make you butt hurt.
a little bit,
Yeah,
especially
well-
if they stack weight on it
Ugh.
too. Oh my gosh.
Gosh. No, thank you. Then number 7 would have been the Pair of Anguish.
I know it said that its uses were like disputed and stuff, and that, but if I'm going off the assumption that it's used how it said it was used
Right.
and stuff, even whether it was true or not, someone still had that concept
Right.
in their head that was how it was supposed
I'm
to
going
be
to shove
used.
this object in your mouth and spread it open till your jaw can't handle it no more. Ew.
And just,
Yeah, no.
you ever popped your jaw before?
Oh.
That's what
Yeah.
I think of that. Oh, and they said also that it go in your butt too.
Well, that's just in case the Judas Cradle didn't work.
Jeez.
Like you stood up pretty strong, so that didn't work. So we're gonna literally force it open.
I wonder if it was less of torture for some people. Having
The sad part is I thought the same thing. Yeah. Okay, so that was number 7. Was a
All
Pair
right.
of Anguish. Number 6, we did the Heretic's Fork.
okay.
Yep. Because that kind of, could go either way.
I think it depends on your willpower.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you took out who was doing it and just did the torture itself.
Yeah.
I mean, because you said that some people, I forget what you said it was, but they would set that up, and if you didn't give them the answers they want, they just leave you there until you said what you want. And then they burn
that's
you.
what the Spanish Inquisition
Right.
would do.
So taking that part out and just looking at the
torture
the
device.
torture itself.
I see.
Okay. Yep. So that was number 6, and then we follow halfway up through that list.
Mhm. Oh, the bad stuff.
Oh, it gets juicy from here on out.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. Thumb screws.
That one makes me like
Cringe, right?
like visibly uncomfortable just thinking about, because like you said, I feel like all of us can relate to having like a finger smashed
Yep.
and
Shut
stuff.
the door.
And
Yep.
then just thinking about it on the perspective of like times 100, where it can literally just flatten and crush your bones.
Right.
And then you don't get that release, because usually when you slam your finger in a car door or like drop something on it, you can pull it out like immediately, and
Right.
and then it's gonna but you're just left like that.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
So I had a hard time between number 5 and number 4.
Okay.
Right.
So was five was thumb
5 was
screws.
thumb screws.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 4, I put the Brazen Bull.
Okay.
And I was kind of toss up between that, but thumb screws, let's be honest, it's not going to kill you.
No, it's not. It's just gonna be
It's going to be painful. You're going to want to be dead, but the braising bull, you're being baked alive
yeah.
in an oven. So yeah, that one hit number 4. Right. The
Okay.
braising bull.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And then of course you know what's left. Right. And that's terrible. Number 3 was the guillotine.
Okay.
It really isn't a torture device. By my standard, it really wasn't a torture device.
You would rate it worse than the brazen bull, or I mean,
higher
than the brazen bull.
Well, from a
I'm just curious what your perspective is for that. I feel like I would take the guillotine over the brazen bull personally.
I would too. I probably would too. But the fact that it has a visual effect.
Yeah.
The guillotine is so well known. It has such a clout or hype to it.
Yeah, it is. It is probably one of the most well-known forms
right.
of execution.
Right, and that kind of pushed it up a little bit for me.
Okay.
Just because of its history. I mean, nobody really hears the braising bull.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
hear
true.
about it until you said it. So I was like, and you don't really get to see what goes on. You know, that the visual stimulation that you get from the guillotine.
Yeah.
You don't get that with the braising bull. You just hear the moaning and the funky smell.
I see.
Right? There's no visual. So that put the guillotine at number 3. Of course, then the rack hit number 2.
Oh.
Which is
something about your muscle fibers separating.
You know, the only thing I think of when you're talking about the rack, I kept thinking about that movie with Mel Gibson in it. Braveheart. Braveheart.
With
Mel Gibson.
Yeah. That was with
yeah.
The English and the Scots and stuff.
So,
William Wallace.
He wasn't on the rack per se, but they tied him to horses and pulled his body in pieces.
Okay.
Which we talked about during the little description of the rack. So that hit number 2.
So that when the rack came up, it made me think of that show Invincible that I've been watching. There is a scene where one of the Viltrumites on there grabbed one of the younger ones. I know you don't watch it, so you're not very familiar with it. But essentially, he grabbed one of the little ones and just started pulling him apart. And they made it so visually disturbing watching it. You could hear the bones crunching and the muscles popping and everything. And you could see he started tearing up and you could see the teardrops falling and then it was blood falling and stuff. Oh, it was
rough.
It did not look good. It made me think of that when I heard the rack.
Yeah. Yeah, so the rack was number 2. And then we left the number 1 spot for the one that just completely turns my stomach. The breaking wheel.
Yeah.
That one, you started off at number 1, and that one finished at number 1. That.
Can you believe, too, that it was for robbers? Could you imagine stealing something and that's your punishment?
Hey, you know what? It'd make you think twice about stealing shit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
It'd be like you go overseas, in some of these other countries, if you get caught stealing, they'll cut your hand off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So this sounds way worse than getting your hand cut off.
Way more. I mean, that's the difference between the breaking wheel and the guillotine, right?
Yeah.
The guillotine, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference, right? It just, I don't know. I guess it would really make you think twice about doing something stupid.
It would, but you know what's scarier, too, is what if you get framed for something like that, somebody, imagine someone steals something and, someone's hot on them or they pass it to you to get the heat off of them and you get caught, you don't even realize. And next thing you know, you're going to the breaking wheel for something you didn't even do.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's a tough break.
Yeah, it is. There's so much detail to it too. There's so many steps.
Right.
First they break your arms and then your legs. Then they get an actual wheel and then weave you through it and stuff. And then put you hang you up like
I
a
was-
Christmas ornament.
The thing that disappointed me about that is that they never said they spun it.
They did.
Oh, they did.
They do spin it.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Must not have talked about that too much. Because you talked about them putting it up on like a crucifix, but you never really talked.
They
about
didn't
them
mention it in the
spinning
thing, but I'm 90% sure that they did spin it too.
Because that would be the part of torture. Is like, we're gonna put you on this wheel and spin it, and then we're gonna swing at it while you're spinning, so you have a chance of getting lucky and missing.
Well, I think they said a lot of the time too, depending on the crime, you'd be killed before like that part, like after they've weaved you in,
Right.
and stuff, and like some people would be killed as an act of mercy,
Right.
or whatever, but some people would be left there to rot. And like it said in there, like there were cases of people being alive and conscious for days before their injuries.
Before they succumb to their injuries.
Which I don't know if that says something about the craziness of the human body and what it can withstand, or like how messed up we are.
Yeah, we are definitely messed up. That's for sure.
Oh.
So that's my list.
Cool. Yeah, I would also put the breaking wheel at the top.
Oh yeah. And anybody is listening, if you have a different list, and you would like to share that with us, you can send it via message or email. We're on Facebook and YouTube. Our email is mo9studios@gmail.com, and you can send us your list. If you're a history buff like Corey, and you know some methodologies that they used to use in history for torture, and do you think that it should be on this list, email that to us or message us. Let us know. We would be cool. We would think that would be kind of neat, and we'd check it out. We might have to change our list.
True that.
Yeah. And while you're sending us that information, or if you just want to send your dedications, you can send those through those chains as well. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, YouTube, subscribe. We don't have a lot of subscribers on YouTube, so jump on that bandwagon right off the rip. Be at the top. Woohoo! Yeah, buddy. and like I said before, send us some conversation back. We would love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
And we're on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify, send us a star. 3 stars, 5 stars. We like it. Yeah, I've been told you can send us messages too, although I haven't quite figured that part out yet. But send us a message, and when I finally figure it out, I will respond. I promise.
Nice.
Might be a while, but I'll respond. And new topic ideas. If you have any new topic ideas, we would love to hear from you.
Yes, we
would. And with that, I think we will leave you with this thought of the week.
Tomorrow is not promised, but one day is. Phyllis Buchanan.
There you go. And with that, we will see you next time.
Later, skaters.